But it seems like first and foremost, we have a call from Matthew, pronouns he, him, from Ohio. He's a theist, and he wants to clarify a common misconception when it comes to engaging with the Bible. I feel like that's right up your alley, Paul. So we're going to go ahead and start with Matthew. Matthew, you're on the Sunday show. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Tell us a little bit more about your question or your comments or your concerns.
Yes. So there is this, I constantly talk to atheists here and there, and I constantly hear this thing about you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible, or you can't use a book to prove a book. And they'll say that's like a circular argument. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, you can. So I think you would agree that things aren't they're not self-fulfilling, or they're not self-affirming, right? Like I can't write on a piece of napkin that what is written on this napkin is true. Like, right? If I hand you a napkin and it says everything written on this napkin is true, and then I write a bunch of other things, that isn't evidence that those things are true, right? I assume you'd accept that.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the Bible, there's different levels.
I guess it will depend on what you write on the napkin, I guess.
No. Well, no, but that's the point. That's exactly the point, is that by writing it on, you would affirm it. It would depend entirely on what was written there, and you would evaluate those statements not based on the initial intro, everything written on this napkin is true. You would evaluate it based on non-napkin criteria. Correct?
So basically you would say that it's a circular argument to say you can't use a book to prove a book. Is that what you would say?
Correct. Now, the Bible, I want to be clear that we have the nuance here that the Bible is a collection of books. In the Protestant Bible, the one that I am most familiar with, there's 66 books, right? And some of them will talk about the same topics on occasion. And there is an argument that can be made on occasion that some of those things can be used potentially to corroborate each other where they speak about the same thing. But for example, let's take something that's in just one place. Let's take the death of the first martyr, Stephen, right? Like the story of Stephen, the first martyr, is only in Acts. So it would be fine for me to say that you are using the Bible to affirm the Bible if you want to point to that, right? Because it's only in one place. So I do want to make that nuance that the Bible, I think an atheist is incorrect, or anyone, even a Christian, doesn't matter, is incorrect to consider that just because it's bound in one volume right now, that it is necessarily, the same as the napkin entirely. But a lot of the principle is true. For example, that death of Stephen example is only told in the book of Acts. And so it would be correct for me to, hold up my cup as I do on occasion and say, for the Bible tells me so, is why that works, right? So does that make sense? And am I making a mistake?
So, I mean, for that example, you're corroborating the Bible with the Bible, right? What you're saying?
Yeah, that's not the way you would corroborate something.
Circular?
That would be circular for me to, again, like the napkin example.
Okay, so let's say, for example, I have I give you an instruction booklet on how to build a chair, right? And I say, how would you prove this instruction booklet to be true?
Well, there's a few things you could do. One is you could actually follow the instructions and figure out to what extent the pieces fit together, that it matched the pieces that were in the box that came with the chair, that the chair was stable and seemed to be of approximately the quality that was being sold to you. That wouldn't be definitive proof, but that would be one way to do it. Another thing you could do is you could go to the manufacturer's website, which often have the PDFs of the instructions. You could see whether the instructions that someone handed me matches what's on the manufacturer's website. I could also call the manufacturer and get more information from that. There's a A bunch of different ways. Those are just a few off the top of my head.
Right. But in its simplest form, you can use the instruction booklet to prove itself by building the chair.
So you're correct in that what we're looking for is future predictions. That's always in science. What you want is future predictions to test a hypothesis. And so you could say, hey, are these instructions for a chair? And I put together a chair. Sure. Do you feel that it's analogous to the Bible in some way?
Well, before I get into the Bible, because I know that can be challenged, or we can get into that, I just want to clarify, the reason why I call it is to clarify that common misconception, which will say you can't use a book to prove a book, because when you use an instruction booklet or something like that, you're using the book basically to prove a book. I just want to make that clear. I hear that a lot. I feel like.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Erica.
I have a bit of a problem with that, right? Because when you're using everything Paul just listed, the way that you're testing the veracity of the instruction booklet is external, right? You're either using the pieces of the chair that came with the instruction booklet to test the instruction booklet to see if it's accurate, right? Or you're calling and comparing it to somebody else's version of that instruction booklet to see if it's consistent, or you're testing it with other types of instruction booklets to see if they have similarities. In no way can you test the instruction booklet in isolation, completely by itself, with no parts, with no nails, with no hammer, whatever. You can't test how well it lets you build a chair without the pieces of the chair. So in that way, when you're testing the veracity of the Bible, you're testing it by comparing it to other ancient Near Eastern sources. That's not using the Bible to prove the Bible, or historical context that we can tell from the archaeological record. That's not using the Bible to prove the Bible, right?
And
Go ahead.
Sorry, if I may. I understand you're using the Bible a lot, and I think there are some. I think I would love to talk to you about that and the Bible and all that stuff, and bring that up if I have time. I know you have other callers, but I'm just wanting to stay focused on clarifying the idea of you can't use a book to prove a book. Even if you were, let's say, you were locked in a room and there was a closet door, and that instruction booklet says, behind this closet door are the tools you need to build this chair. How would you prove that book to be true?
You'd open the closet door.
You open the closet door, and then you see the things, and then you follow the instructions in the booklet.
But you understand that you just went to something external to the instruction booklet.
Because the closet door isn't the instruction booklet. I think a more analogous, if I may, if I may, really quick, Matthew, just to make sure you know where I stand on this.
Please.
A better analogy would be like, okay, if the instruction booklet says see page 86 for more information on building the back of the chair, and then you turn to page 86 and then there's more information about how to build the back of the chair, right? That's internal. That would be using the instruction booklet to test its own veracity. But the second you're bringing out things that are not the book itself, you're no longer using the book to prove the book. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, but you still can use the book, as you even said, to prove the book is to be true.
No, I don't think, Matthew. I don't think you're understanding.
Okay.
So in one case, right? Like in one case, you're taking the instruction booklet. If I sit in the room and someone like I'm reading my instruction booklet on how to build a chair, and it says on page 86 there's more information on how to build the back of the chair. What I can do in that room without even standing up is go to page 86 and see what it says. And if it says that they're here's how you build the back of the chair, then the book was correct about itself. It did in fact have more information on building the back of the chair on page 86. If it says check behind the closet door that's in the room with you to see if the tools are there to help me build my chair, I have to engage with material outside of the instruction booklet. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's totally fine. And that's totally fine to the analogy, right? You're using the material that is given to build the chair, but where do you get the information on how to build a chair with those materials?
I don't really understand how that relates back to the concept of using the book to prove the book.
Well, I'm asking, where did you get the information on how to put those materials together to put the chair together?
From the instruction book. But the way that you're testing the veracity of those instructions,
people put together chairs with no instructions all the time.
I understand that.
Right.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to go into like outside. This people do this, we'll do that. All I'm just saying is that I'm using the analogy to clarify the misconception.
Using the book to prove the book. Matthew, using the book to prove the book is, if you want to stick with instruction manuals, is to say, hey, here's an instruction manual from IKEA. Look on the back page, and the back page is a picture of a chair. Therefore, this is instruction manuals for a chair. That's what using a book to prove a book means. As soon as you bring in anything else, then you are no longer using the book to prove the book.
So what are you using to prove, or what are you using to figure out how to put the chair together?
So, obviously we're using the instructions, and the verification is the chair. So the verification isn't the book. Right. The verification is the chair. We're not saying the books aren't useful. We're not saying the books aren't useful.
Mm.
Books can be useful, but the verification in the end is the chair, not the instructions. I don't tell my partner, hey, I built a chair. See, here's the instructions. I don't show her the instructions to prove that I built a chair.
Right, but you still have the instructions that help you build the chair, right?
Right, but so like a way that you might like, I hear this a lot that, oh, like there's archaeological evidence that supports the events in the Bible, and I think that the Bible gives accurate archaeological or historical accounts a lot. It doesn't do it all the time, but it does it a lot. It's a history book for people, a lot like this group of people who lived in the ancient Near East in a lot of ways, even if it's polemical or whatever a lot of the time, or exaggerated or exalted prose or whatever. But you can test the veracity of that by reading in the Old Testament. It says, okay, let's talking about the siege of Tyre or something like that, or Jericho, or something along those lines. You can see if that's something that actually happened by turning to the archaeological record and investigating it in the areas where the Bible says that it happened, right? But that's not using the book to prove that. That's using the archaeological record to validate it. In the same way, when you use a chair to validate the instruction manual, that's not the instruction manual that's doing the proving. It's not doing the legwork. It's the chair.
I think I see what you're saying. So you're saying that if you have the chair shows you, once you build the chair, it shows you that the instruction booklet is valid.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So.
But the chair isn't the manual. Okay, the manual is the manual.
Pardon?
I said the chair is not the manual. The manual is the manual. The chair is external evidence that you're using to support the veracity of the manual.
Mm-hmm. But you would say that you get the information from the manual.
Sure.
Yeah. In this case, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and also the biblical case, this is, like I said, I was talking about the Bible too. But in the biblical case, the Bible is an instruction booklet, or an instruction book. That's what the point of the scriptures are for instruction and teaching.
Many people would disagree, but carry on.
Right. So
sorry, Erica, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. Yeah. You didn't. It's okay.
So if you follow the instructions and you see the result, pardon?
Yeah, go ahead. Finish this thought, please.
Yeah. If you follow the instructions and you see the result, would you say, like, for example, it talks about, for the Bible is God, I'm sure you guys know this verse, the Bible is God inspired and made for instruction and righteousness, so that the man of God.
Timothy 3:15, yes.
Yeah. Yep. 3:16 and 17. So when the person is walking in this righteousness and doing these things that the Bible teaches them to do, would that be the confirmation that the Bible is valid? And not,
I don't think so, because the Bible does not claim that people will be good. The Bible does not claim that people will have good lives. The Bible makes none of those claims. In fact, it tells you you'll have people will fail, and it tells you that people will have sorrow. So none of those predictions are what's useful.
Hold on. I agree that the Bible doesn't say that you'll have good life, but it does tell you that you will be righteous and holy.
No, it does not. No one is righteous. No, not one.
Well, that's before Christ. I'm talking about in Christ. It tells you you'll be righteous.
But on this earth, no one is righteous. On this earth, not a single person is righteous. So the proof will be for Erika and I, the proof will be on Judgment Day. So after we die, or when if there's a second coming, like as some people think is predicted, some people don't, that will be the evidence. Changed lives means nothing. Changed lives is because that's people's lives change for a myriad of reasons, right? We see changed lives out of a good movie or a bad philosophy book. Like a magazine article can change your behavior. So that's not what we're looking for. And that's not even ultimately what the Bible predicts is going to happen. So you have to make a testable prediction. Now, the testable predictions, since Jesus isn't, we can't observe the resurrected Jesus, for example, right now. We have to, the proof will come on Judgment Day. And then I will absolutely say, external corroboration, I will be on your team, Matthew.
I got you. So doesn't the Bible say that though we can live the rest of his life in the flesh without, not to the lust of man, but to the will of God, meaning basically not sinning? We can stop sinning?
I have never interpreted it that way. No. And that's news to me. I have been involved with a bunch of denominations, and I've never been involved with one that predicted that in this life that a single human has lived even one 24-hour period without sinning.
Do you mind if I read a verse real quick?
Go for it.
Yeah. So in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, it says, "For as much then as Christ has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourself likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of God."
That he no longer should, but that doesn't mean that anyone has achieved that. Even Paul, the Apostle Paul, kept talking about his struggles with sin, and that. Now, I don't think for one second that Peter wrote First and Second Peter, which is the ironic part. But if I want to go to the epistles of Paul, he struggled. He had thorns in his flesh. He struggled with sin. Like, so I don't know how that your prescription to say that there's someone, and like, would you put yourself up, Matthew, as someone saying, have you gone the last 24 hours without sinning?
I'm not sure if last 24 hours I probably have. I don't know. I don't remember any sin that I have done.
You haven't looked at anyone lustfully. You haven't been prideful.
Yeah, your sins can be internal. They don't have to be an external action, right? Like you can even think in impure thoughts, and that's
right. So for example, like let's say if somebody walks by and a thought comes to my mind, and I'm like, that's a weird thought, because we all have brains and intrusive thoughts into your brain. I wouldn't say that is sin. Would you say that is sin?
Jesus did. Anyone who murders is guilty of sin, but anyone who thinks raka, you fool, is guilty of murder.
Right. No, I agree with that, but that's like an intentional thought. Like you're thinking your brother is worthless. You're like,
did Jesus think, like, what did Jesus? No. Did Jesus say anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has committed adultery within his heart?
Right. I agree with that.
Did it say intention? Did it say intentionally?
Well, can you desire something without intention?
Of course you can.
Can you?
What if you smell? What if you're hungry and you smell a delicious apple pie, and you desire it? You didn't like. Oh, I'm thinking about it. It's just the thing that happens.
Well, let's say I see the apple pie and I smell it. It smells good, but I know I shouldn't eat it. I won't be if I don't lust after it and like really think about it and meditate on it and desire it. Then I'm not lusting after it. I say, oh, that smells good. That's an apple pie, but I know I shouldn't eat it, so I should stay away from it.
That is not a common interpretation of what Jesus says.
Common interpretation. Well, you would agree that a lot of Christians, I'm sure, don't follow the Bible and have common interpretation doesn't mean correct interpretation, correct?
So, but let's get back to the original question. Is like the Bible does not predict that humans, like that verse you gave me is what you should do and what is possible. It doesn't. That's not the prediction saying. Jesus didn't say, believe in me and everyone will be perfect. In fact, the Bible says that many will predict, many will give, will move mountains. They will do miracles in my name, and yet they will still, I will still say to them on that day, Lord, I did not know you. So, like that is not the guarantee of anything. The what happens in this world and the fruits of the Spirit, for example.
He doesn't say in so many words that you will be perfect, but he does say a disciple. What does he say? He says a disciple is not above his master, but anyone who's perfect shall be as his master.
Okay, so first, there's like so many weird tangents with this. So if you want to say that the test of the Bible is how close people are to Jesus, can you get 3 people in a room to tell me what the character of Jesus was beyond the word perfect? Because I'm not convinced you can, for me to for me to use as a comparison, right? Like if we want to say something is a meter long, we can have most of the planet has come to an agreement about what the length of a meter is, and so then we can measure it. Most of the planet has not agreed what the character of Jesus is, against which we can measure it.
Right, but the Bible gives a character, and those who believe will identify that character as perfect, wouldn't they not?
No. No. Some people love hippie Jesus. Some people think that Jesus is coming with a gun. Okay, so that's for you to work out as theists amongst yourselves. That cannot be evidence to me or anyone that the Bible is true, because you say some people have characteristics that I seem to like. Right, because there's 100. So you would say that because you can find 100 other people who have those characteristics that don't believe in Jesus. So that's obviously not a very good test. But even if you said, "Hey, here's a church full of people that are all behave in a way that you like subjectively," doesn't tell you anything about the truth of what their beliefs say, right?
Okay. So earlier you said that that would be the proof on the day of judgment. If you saw that, are you saying that wouldn't necessarily be the proof then? Even that wouldn't be the proof?
No, that I'm telling you, if I'm standing in front of the judgment, if I'm standing in front of God, I'm going to say, I was wrong. You are real. I can't imagine I can't imagine anything else.
Right, but I mean, like you said, the perfection part. You said if you saw somebody, and you said I said that wouldn't happen.
Oh, if I saw someone if I saw someone I thought was behaving in a way that I subjectively thought was perfect, no, that wouldn't tell me anything about what motivated them to achieve that perfection. Was the Bible?
You said that would convince you.
No, I'm sorry if I misspoke, because that absolutely would not. Okay. I think I've been pretty consistent that the character of a person is entirely subjective. Like what what a perfection is, and that is so. If I found someone who just matched my ideal of perfection, no, I still wouldn't. Even if they said the reason I act this way is because of Jesus, I'm gonna, on here we are on Father's Day. My dad is the best person I know, just bar none, just the best person I know. He's a Christian. I do not believe that the reason he is the character traits that I admire in him, I don't think come from Jesus. I think they come from his character that I've always known. So that's to me, like, I can't even imagine anyone better than my dad. And so, and I still don't accept that the reason he is that way is because the Bible is true. And it would be crazy for me to go, hey, everyone, look at my dad, who I subjectively think is perfect, or the best person I know, not perfect, but the best person I know. Therefore, the Bible is true because the subjective view that I have of his character is positive, and he believes this. Like, do you get why that's unconvincing?
Yeah.
It's also a hard
So,
sell
so
because even if we could agree on something that was like, okay, if someone has all of these external characteristics and they do all of these things and they donate to all these charities and this is how they spend their time and whatever, like even if we could agree on all of that,
mm,
because there are transgressions that you could do in your noodle, right? There would still be no way for us to know that this person was actually perfect. There could be stuff going on under the hood. They could be the most vile person you've ever met in your life, with all of the thoughts that they have.
mm,
I think that's why it's
mm,
such a hard sell for people. And when folks are looking for ways to like provide empirical, objective support for the Bible, they turn to like the historical events that it describes, or how it
mm,
corroborates other documents, right? Like that's something that's objective in a way that everybody can agree on.
mm, mm.
And Matthew,
So
if I found a
just to
Muslim,
kind of
if
sum
I
up,
found a Muslim who just
mm,
met all of your subjective criteria better than any Christian you knew, because that's plausible, right?
well, no, I don't
Would
think it's
you?
subjective. That's the only thing.
Well, uh, if I was able to find someone who a non-Christian, because maybe you have let's just say I found someone who didn't believe, who met every criteria you imagined,
Mm-hmm.
would you then like give up Christianity and say, oh, that can't be true because the person who's living the best earthly life that you've encountered isn't a Christian? Like, would that be convincing to you?
Well, it will just show me that they're keeping the law of God and keeping His commandments, keeping Christ's commandments. So no, I wouldn't stop me. They're just a Christian
Right.
without
So for
having
that
to.
same
It'll be,
for that same reason, Matthew, your argument here is not going to be convincing to another non-believer.
okay.
Do you see how
So just to, I appreciate that. Um, just to sum up, going back to the instruction booklet analogy, you would say that the book is useful to use, but it's not the proof itself. The actual what comes out of the book would be the proof.
Well, how well
Corroborate
the
the
book
book.
aligns to reality is a better way to phrase it.
Got it. Yeah, because it builds the chair that it said it would help you build. You build the chair that I said it will help you build, and in reality, there is a chair there.
I think you can imagine too, like, what if the book had little inspirational quotes and phrases on every page that are like, oh, believe in yourself, or,
Mm-hmm.
treat yourself every now and again, like stuff that's internal, because then theoretically the
Mm-hmm.
book could have some kind of beneficial impact to you without necessarily
Mm-hmm.
building the chair, and one that is somewhat subjective. So, like, I think it's better to say, like, the book, how well the book aligns to reality, and if you want to ascribe like value to it at a personal level, you can, but that's never going to be an objective means by which others can evaluate it.
Okay, I got it.
Cool. Was this a good little hash out session?
I appreciate it. Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much for calling in, Matthew.
All right.
Bye.
Call back whenever you like, and have a wonderful Father's Day.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Snow, executive producer for The Line and avid candy eater. Hey, if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so now on Patreon or as a channel member with tiers specific to supporting specific shows and hosts. And it also supports our ability to expand programming going forward. You could also leave a super thanks down below, get a little special highlighted comment, and I'll tell you what, you could hit like and you could hit subscribe. Now, here are some video suggestions so we can fudge that algorithm. Go with one of ours. Forget everyone else on YouTube. I'm begging.